Welcome back, everybody, to another live stream. It's been a while since I've done these, and I'm starting to get into the rhythm again of doing them more often. And today we've got a special guest. We're going to be talking with Beth from who runs a bike shop called Frontier Bicycles in Eudora, Kansas, and they have the most awesome '90s inspired logo you've ever seen. So we're going to chat with her about what it's like to run the bike shop. She's a sole proprietor, woman-owned, and see how business is doing during these crazy COVID times. But before we get going, I do want to thank our Patreon supporters that keep the lights on, like literally and metaphorically, and all the people that have purchased things from our shop. A little too late to send these out for the holidays, but we have been making prints of some of the watercolors I've been doing, so it's a little bit more accessible in price point than an original watercolor, but still darn good. Super matte finish, ready to hang, and all that stuff is in our big cartel store. But enough about that. Let's chat with our guest, Beth. Welcome to the stream.
Hi, Russ. How are you?
Good. So for those that may not be familiar with your bike shop, can you tell us a little bit about when it started and why?
Frontier Bikes was founded April 2018. I started it because we needed more female-owned bike shops, women-owned bike shops. I don't know. I had started wrenching on bikes back in 2016, went to frame building school in 2017, and I did the business plan side by side, and the bike shop was more appealing. And I thought eventually I could just build in the frame building into that. So I could have the best of both worlds if I really wanted it. So the bike shop made sense, really, above the two.
Cool. So you're based in Eudora. How big of a town is that?
It's 6,500 people, which is a bustling metropolis for a Kansas town anyway. We're between Lawrence and Kansas City. We're closer to Lawrence, where the University of Kansas is. They have bike shops there, like Sunflower Outdoor and Bike that Dan Hughes owns. And then we have Kansas City to our east, which is about 25 minutes to get to the heart of town, like maybe the Kansas-Missouri border. And of course, they have several really cool shops there and all of our mountain bike trails. We've spent a lot of time out there.
Right. So when you started the shop, like, what was your vision for it? What did you see that was missing that made you want to jump in?
We really needed another bike shop, period, in the area. You needed it. Lawrence really only had Sunflower. And CycleWorks is there, which has been there forever, but they don't really dive into the community and get themselves involved in the community quite like Sunflower does. So we just found that there was a need, there was a gap that could be filled. The space we're located in is right on gravel, and when we opened, gravel was just healthy and thriving, and so we drew a lot of that crowd, and it seemed like a good fit. We had a lot of feedback from people saying that, their demand, that they wanted it. Plus, there weren't very many women owning shops in the area, and that's always a gap filler.
Yeah. So we live in the Pacific Northwest now in Montana, which I guess is still considered the Pacific Northwest. But looking at Kansas, it seems as if within the last couple of years, there's been a big explosion of interest in riding, in the state. Is that panned out?
Just generally interest riding in our state?
Yeah. I never would have pinned it as a cycling destination until, the big gravel explosion. Now it seems like, people are looking at Kansas rather than just flying over.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're sort of the heart of gravel country. We have, it's an easy drive to head down to Emporia where they have the Unbound race now, when we have races. Lawrence hosts a lot of gravel races. Yeah, but we're like, my shop is only an hour drive from Emporia, so we can just hop in the car and head down and have the Flint Hills easily in our yard.
Right.
But yeah, no, ever since gravel exploded, we're sort of the central focus of the country.
The hub.
Yeah, the hub.
So you started your bike shop in 2018. Probably, no one knew what was going to happen in 2020. How has business changed from when you started to now? I know that's a big question, but just big broad strokes.
Oh, well, so not a lot of people know this, but I mean, we've had our spin studio closed down since March, since lockdown, but we are 1,500 square feet. We've got 750 here of shop, and then on the other side, we have 750 square feet with real rider spin bikes. So half of our monthly revenue comes from the spin studio, and we've got the other revenue coming from the bike shop. And when we opened, both were thriving. And we were selling bikes. We were putting a lot of custom gravel steel frames out with builds, and then we were doing the spin classes as well. We're not a large footprint. Our retail space is maybe 400 square feet. So we don't focus on keeping a lot of merch on the floor, a lot of tools and accessories, nor do we have a lot of bicycles. We were just relying on special order, which worked at the time in 2018. Bike shops that had tons of inventory on their floor that they were sitting on, things just weren't moving very well. And which is why we sort of built in that the spin studio, because in the winter, shops would slow down. They'd be sitting on a bunch of bikes. Mm-hmm. We didn't want to lose business because we don't really hold on to a lot of bikes as for inventory. So the spin studio would keep bringing that revenue when things were slow on the bike shop side. And that was working really well. Then COVID hit, and bike shops exploded. The service ramped up, bike sales ramped up. Customers were wanting to get outside, exercise, really increase the activity in their lives because they were working from home, not working, things like that. So we sold out of all of our bicycles, and that bubble sort of went away when stock ran out, the supply chain went dry. And so it's been interesting trying to come up with ways to bring in extra revenue, whether it's, some sort of online repair class or offering, to rent out a bike to a customer, take it home, use it, rent it monthly, that kind of thing. So we've sort of adapted as the challenges have been presented.
Yeah, that's crazy. So I'm assuming that have you put away the spin bikes, or they're just waiting there for a future time?
They're here. They're spaced out. I reduced the number of spin bikes in the studio so that we'd have lots of room between customers, so that they could feel comfortable getting on and spinning. I'm changing over my software for scheduling right now, but once that's done, we'll reopen classes. I have a huge garage door that we're going to crank open even in the winter. It's going to be cold, but we're going to teach them anyway, because we have to bring in the funds. We have to bring in the revenue from that, because it's what gets us through the winter. And
right.
But yeah, they're here and they're ready to go. People are actually very excited, surprisingly, to exercise. I mean, not surprisingly, they've been sitting still for 9 months, but we've been very diligent about how they're arranged, how we're going to check people in. Disposable masks are going to be required to wear on your bike. So people are going to have to get used to that until things have cleared up a little bit.
Yeah. Has it been mostly, have you thought of doing grouping in pods? So if it's like a party that usually cohabitates, or good friends that just want to spin and shoot the breeze somewhere else, that feel comfortable riding with each other, or are you still looking at individuals and bringing them together?
Just individuals. Sign up online. We've explored the idea of doing of live streaming our classes.
Oh yeah, that'd be sweet.
We've had some folks nationally who've reached out to us and want us to live stream so they can work out from home and join in and have a little online community of riders. So we're looking at how to do that with our new software as well. It might be a good, fun way to connect with people that you haven't connected with because of COVID. So yeah, I don't know who really wants me in their living room at 5:30 in the morning, but they're welcome to join.
I think if you just embrace like the 80s, 90s and just go like full on like Richard Simmons on the bike, it'd be hot. It'd just feel like gangbusters.
Sweatbands and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But I think if we have the Richard Simmons get up, we're going to have you host.
Right. We'll see. Let's see. So again, if you guys are just tuning in, there's about 90 of you in here. We were chatting with Beth, who owns a bike shop in Eudora, Kansas, and we're talking about some of the challenges of running a bike shop during these crazy times. If you have questions for Beth, leave those in the comments, and I'll be sure to pass those along. So was there a pattern in what kind of bikes sold during COVID that was different from, pre-COVID times?
Absolutely. Any bike under $1,000 flew off the floor.
Right.
Your entry-level hardtails. So we sell Marin out of Marin County, California, Marin bikes. Anything that was $600 and under for a hardtail, just everyone wanted one. And kids' bikes flew off the floor immediately. I mean, those were out the door with kids learning from home and needing to exercise still. Parents are wanting to get their kids out the house. But for themselves, we saw a population of people that aren't usually the non-cycling population that couldn't go to the gym anymore and exercise because everything's shut down. We gained a lot of new customers that we hadn't had before, which is exciting. A lot of community members decided to be cyclists or own a bike. Now, whether they stick with it or not, we don't know. But hopefully, the way we engage with our community will keep them riding. We participate heavily in our sponsorship of our high school cycling club, and we sold them their bikes. They got a grant, so the high schoolers are riding. So we have them and their parents interested in it. The community is really revved up in ridership since we opened up, which is really cool.
Right. Cool. We've got a comment here from our fellow bike YouTubers in San Diego, Rad Bike Adventure. Live stream spin classes is an awesome idea.
All right.
All right. So they'd be down.
All right. Good deal. Maybe we'll rev it up. They're a lot of fun. In the last year or two, I've really gotten into mountain biking, and so I try and tailor our spin classes around how you actually ride a bike when you're out and about. And having taken the Roots mountain biking and BICP level 1 course, learning how bike body separation and how to interact with your bike on trails, we really translate that into our spin classes. And so, if you're a cyclist out there who wants a spin class that isn't derpy or, boring, you can log in and participate in ours because they're pretty engaging.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you can do one that's really like personality driven and fun.
Music is great too. We have great taste in music here.
Yeah, it's not just like German dance house electro beats, is it?
Yeah, no. No Tchaikovsky necessarily playing in the spin class.
Nice. So speaking of like all the new riders, I put out a video like last week that was kind of pondering aloud whether the bike boom will last. And one of the ideas I posed was, the bike industry, which I know is really nebulous. It's like brands, it's IBDs, it's advocates and all that stuff, has been given kind of this golden egg of, influx of new cyclists. But in my perspective, like there hasn't been a lot done to kind of retain this new ridership. Do you have any thoughts on maybe what you guys are doing or what you'd like to see brands or other bike shops or companies do to kind of hold on to these new cyclists?
Well, first of all, when our customers buy a bicycle with us, we offer them sort of an incentive to bring the bike back and keep it maintained and running. I think a lot of people, when they buy a new bike, especially something under $600 that doesn't have high quality components on it necessarily, maybe a little bit better than a department store, but not a huge step up, and they ride it into the ground, and then something breaks and they throw it in the basement, it gets dusty. So we try and encourage our customers to come back and keep it up and running by offering discounted repair packages. They're like their 500-mile, we call it a micro tune-up, or abbreviated tune-up, is free on the house. So trying to encourage, incentivize them that way. We also have community group rides where we start downtown and we sort of collaborate with other local businesses, like start and finish at the coffee shop, or, maybe bike to the other fitness studio in town and do an outdoor workout and then bike back, that kind of thing. Or we participate in local events where someone who isn't necessarily a cyclist wants to sign up for an adventure race here in town. We actually will be like a checkpoint during that race. Folks have to come through the doors and we get to interact with them, get to know them. And it being a small town, it's really easy to stay connected. And so we feel like just having that small community feel really benefits us.
Yeah.
And them mostly.
So have you had it where, someone came in, maybe new to cycling or hasn't, ridden in a while, bought a less expensive bike and then came back to buy something more expensive because they found that they actually liked it? Is that happening in reality?
Not when it comes to the person who, I wouldn't call it the COVID population isn't doing that yet, because they're still enjoying their current bicycles that they just bought a few months ago, I hope. But we do see people who started out on something a little bit lower end. Maybe whether they bought it through us or not, they do come back. It's all about building the relationship with the customer, get them excited about riding somehow. Just being engaging. A lot of bike shops you go into, the people aren't engaged. They just don't communicate with their customers in a friendly way per se, or you don't just ask those begging questions of their customers, like, where do you live, how often do you ride, what got you into cycling, how can I help? Come back. We do a really cool thing with customers who come in and maybe upgrade their bike or just buy a bike. We have open shop nights. The stands are free. The tools are free to use. The knowledge is free. You have a mechanic here. And for that, the community loves being able to just like, well, I don't know how to work on my bike, but this place lets me come over and work on it for free. That really builds a relationship and the rapport with the customer. They come back and they buy something else and upgrade. You can kind of get them excited about it.
Right. Cool. Yeah. See our friend Toby DePaul here.
Hi, Toby.
So small shops with big hearts like Frontier will make a huge impact to keep all those new riders excited about their bikes.
I love Toby. Toby and I did the distance off in the spring together.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if you were around to watch that or caught it, but we're trying to get people really stoked about life and living. When we first locked down, we were like, oh God, this is terrible and horrible and life is miserable. Let's do this distance off. And we did a giveaway with lots of industry people donating prizes, and shops turned in their distance off videos, while they're dancing in their shop working and things like that. The morale during the dark era.
Nice. Let's see. So someone had asked a question earlier about supply chain. How is that looking for next year?
Whew, man, that is a trigger question, isn't it? Boy, talking to my Shimano rep, talking to my Marin rep, Shimano's orders are already pushed into next August. So they're encouraging shops to keep placing back orders, and eventually things will start regularly rolling in. But if you drop a big order now, you're looking at the end of next summer before you're going to get it delivered. Right. And for bikes, we're starting to see things hit the shores, and they're in customs. They just are taking forever to get through customs. But as far as an open purchase, open availability for bikes, some companies are telling shops 18 months.
Oh, dang.
Before we can just get online, see inventory that's open and snag it and have it shipped. It's all about allocation right now. And it's probably going to be through the spring.
Yeah. So are all the bikes you've ordered for next riding season, are they already spoken for?
We were hesitant about dropping any order in the spring when COVID hit. So we missed the deadline for the late summer, early fall delivery of bikes that you see a lot of bigger shops getting delivered to them. Because we're so small, we don't place huge orders anyway. So it's sort of stacked against us in that sense. But things are starting to slowly come in. We thankfully are good on service. We've been doing a ton of service. That's been getting us through all of these times, is encouraging people to fix their bikes. But yeah, we definitely won't see a healthy supply in our shop for maybe 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. We're expecting probably April.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How's just availability of consumables? So things like chains and brakes, is that blocked up as well, or is that trickling in?
That is blocked up as well. It comes in waves. QBP has not had a lot of availability of anything. I mean, I can't get a group set of anything. SRAM has been better. SRAM's been a lot better than Shimano getting parts. So I've been putting a lot of SRAM stuff on bikes for repairs. That's good. But yeah, the small things they just come in waves. I'll look at Q one day. I'll get an email notification that says, you've got 20 blue Ori grips in stock, and 20 minutes later, they're out of stock, and the next ETA is like February 21st. You're like, dang it. Crap. So the cheaper stuff goes so fast. 26-inch tubes have been out of stock. Everyone, updated their 26-inch college mountain bike.
Right.
And so we ran out of 26-inch tubes, which was hilarious. But yeah, all the cheaper low-end stuff, anything price point-ish lower price point is here and gone in a blink usually.
Right. Yeah, I remember when COVID was starting to look really serious last spring. We were in Tucson, and we made the decision to drive back to Montana. But before we left, I went to the local bike shop, or one of the bike shops in Tucson. Actually, 3 of the bike shops in Tucson, and started picking up consumables. Like, I thought of all the bikes we had at home, what different speed chains they had, bought replacement chains and pads and bar tape and everything. Yeah. And I remember all the bike shop people were looking at me like, that's really weird. And then, fast forward a couple months, wasn't as crazy as one would thought.
Man, you were a thinker. You thought ahead. You're visionary, really. Yeah, we here in our small town, we work on a lot of 6, 7, 8 speeds. And so we just churn and burn through those nonstop every week. A lot of 3x drivetrains, 2x drivetrains, a lot of kids' bikes, mountain bikes, 20-inch, 24, 26. We run through a lot of here in our small town. And then occasionally we get the good stuff, where I get to blast a torch on stainless steel frame or something to fix it, which is exciting. And we have those types of customers. But yeah, as far as supply, I mean, you were smart, because I remember being really excited. I've never been so excited to buy 26-inch tires.
26-inch is the new 650B, though.
It is.
Oh.
650C is hot. Again, there's that population loves 650C too, for us small people.
Really? Yeah, nice. Well, you mentioned the torch. Let's talk a little bit about frame building. So you took a class, like, where and how long ago was that?
September 2017 with Yamaguchi in Rifle, Colorado. It was a 2-week-long course with a weekend in the middle for STEM building, and you talk to him when you get there about what kind of bike you want to build within limits. He's not going to build a 26-inch fat drop bar bike. We just did classic 700C road frame to keep it plain and simple, rim brake, and you learn. Koichi's so experienced in the industry. He's been working on a lathe since he was 5 years old.
Dang.
And he's always been in a machine shop, always had his hands on a mill. And so that school, that class I took because Julie Pedalino had encouraged me to do so. She had been mentoring me for 9 months prior, leading up to the Philly Bike Expo in 2017, where we sort of co-designed and co-worked on the Star Trek bike that is my bicycle. And we exhibited that at Philly Bike Expo in a totally different colorway than it is now. But that was sort of my taste of the expo world and custom steel bicycles. I'm a petite rider. I'm 5'2", and so finding a bike to fit me was really what originally landed me in a bike shop, because I searched and searched and searched for bicycles, took them apart, didn't have the tools to put them back together, and I strolled into a bike shop and I was like, help. And they said, well, here's a stand. We'll show you how to put it back together. And I was hooked. And that's where I met Julie and started working with her. And she was like, you don't have to buy a bike that's too big for you. We can build you one. And I was like, how? Tell me. And so that's what we did. I scooted on into Koichi's class and then opened the shop, and now frame building is being incorporated in, and my stuff is all over at my garage at home, and I just miter and play with my torch and work on my fillet work and practice, because that's really like the idea of rolling into Philly and not having decent fillets makes me want to throw up. But when you have people like Shell Money, throwing out those beautiful dime fillets, you kind of have to make sure your stuff is decent.
So where do you want to take the frame building?
I don't know. I after working with and knowing and meeting so many different frame builders, very few really make a huge living off of it. It's very time consuming. Compared to the amount of money you're making doing it. It's just laborious. It's a laborious type of work. And so I have people in a waiting line for bikes. I've got some higher profile folks, like I've got, a world champion track cyclist who wants a drop bar adventure bike. I've got all the way down to a fixie going to a photographer in Colorado. And then I've got some, 26, 27.5 gravel style bikes for people that they want to ride down in near the Bentonville area. So I've got people waiting. They're just COVID has kind of put a halt on things because we've been so busy with service and other things like that. But as soon as the Philly bike gets done, where I guess I'll be making bikes for people, just one off at a time. I don't know what it'll turn into, but we'll see. We'll try.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Any other questions for Beth? We've got 143 people. Let us know where you're watching from. Where's Toby based these days? He's in Wisconsin, right?
Yeah, I thought he was in Wisconsin.
Yeah, and then I know the Rad Bike Adventure Ladies are based in San Diego.
Nice.
Let us know where you guys are watching from in the comments, and if you guys have a question for Beth, put those in the comments as well.
Killick Fabrication asks about how long does it take to build a frame. Takes them about 30 hours, give or take, depending on what type of build it is. If it's a more complex build, then it's going to be, for me as a newer builder, 40 hours. I've heard of builders who are like, oh, I got this done in 18 hours. I'm like, oh, tell me how. Just practice,
Yeah. Nice. All right, we got Toby Madison. See, remembered. Someone from India.
Wow.
Wichita, Fort Collins, Redmond, Oregon. All right, Central Oregon in the house. Sewanee, Tennessee. Sheridan, Wyoming. Beautiful country. Boise, Scottsdale. Sweet.
Yeah.
You've got a nationwide audience and India waiting for your spin class.
Hi guys. Who wants to work out? Who wants that no saddle Saturday that we do? Oh my gosh, we can saddle out and work out for an hour.
Let's see. Paris, Arkansas.
Oh my.
Central Arkansas. Minneapolis. Yeah, Coatesville, Perth, Australia, Costa Rica. Nice.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah. Let's see. Any questions for Beth? So it sounds like you've got quite the puzzle with the shop with COVID. Like what other ways have you had to pivot the business to be sustainable?
Really, we haven't changed much from what we're doing that we were doing before. I mean, that little burst of business at the very beginning certainly helped. It was a really good quarter, coasted into town. We were very fortunate. The city of Eudora sort of reached out and they were like, we have this grant money and we don't have very many applicants to give it to. And so we got some grant money for small business from that, which was really helpful as well. That'll help cushion us through the winter for sure. I know that once we get spin classes back up, that will help a bunch. Now that the vaccine is out, that's going to be a huge, huge help for our business. More people will be comfortable going and doing different things that they weren't doing before, I think, as that slowly changes and evolves. That's promising. But we haven't really overall changed what we've been doing from before. I mean, we've been pretty one in, one out since the beginning of lockdown and just churning and burning service.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So here's a question. Do you approach your bike shop differently, being a woman owner as opposed to a bike shop owned by a guy? Is there a different lens or different approach to service?
Well, women have superpowers, obviously.
Clearly.
Men. No, I'm just joking. I keep seeing the questions to the right, like, how is it better than, being a man? And I'm like, well, it's not. It's just we attract more women into the shop than a male-owned shop would necessarily. I don't know. I think it really doesn't matter your gender. It really matters on how you treat your customers. It's just been unfortunate that there have been so few female-owned bike shops for just overall throughout the industry. But now that's sort of that's changed and more women are getting into it, and it's more approachable for us. Because other women have done the same thing and paved the way or mentored someone. I mean, if it wasn't for Julie sort of taking me under her wing for the frame building thing, I wouldn't have been brave enough to apply for the scholarship. And then maybe that will get more women into frame building. I don't know. But as far as there being any benefits to being a woman, bringing more women into the bike shop. I mean, so many people, whether you're a man or woman, have had negative bike shop experiences. But, I hear from a lot of gals, ladies, women who go in and they're mansplained to or whatever, they're talked down to or, just made to feel like they don't know much or that they're, undervalued. And so I think it really isn't, to me, just labeling it as woman-owned bike shop. It's just a bike shop owned by someone who treats people the way that they want to be treated, Right. Like, I want to be treated like I'm not a moron. And so I don't treat my customers like they're morons. But nice. It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. We have good hospitality in the Midwest, I feel like. And as long as you keep serving out and dishing out that those good vibes to people, they're going to be excited about bikes, man or woman.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of which, we've got Catherine here, fellow female bike shop lead here. We're Marin Shop too. Which bike shop, Catherine? Let's know.
Yeah.
Let's see. We've got Albuquerque in the house. How do you pronounce this? Ypsilanti, Michigan.
Interesting.
Yeah. Um,
Cool. Another Marin lady shop. Cool.
nice. Da, da, da. So here is an interesting question. Where are the biggest gaps you find between customer demand and traditional bike shop offerings? Like recreational family riders, commuters, cyclists using bikes as physical therapy. Does that make sense to the question? Like, I think, like, is there a hole that the brands aren't filling, but you're seeing a demand for?
Not necessarily. We don't see a huge demand for, like, we don't sell trikes, only because we don't have a lot of people coming in and asking for them, but also there aren't a lot of bike brands that necessarily push them, like the big top brands, big five brands like Trek or Specialized or Giant, what have you. We don't, I mean, some brands are heavy on kids offerings and some aren't. For us, we don't, I guess I don't see a huge gap between that customer demand and what most shops are offering. As besides, we have had some special needs customers come in and ask for modifications. We have a high school girl who was born with a deformity at the elbow and therefore can't steer one side of her handlebars. And she came to us asking for, a modification for her bike because they just don't sell bikes for para athletes.
Right.
So
did you weld something up, or were you able? No.
No, a lot of that it has to be customized and fit properly to her anatomy. So I referred her to a company that makes sort of a prosthesis for cyclists. What's really cool is my previous experience gave me a connection to that Paralympian named Todd Key. He's a track cyclist. I just reached out to him on Facebook. It's like, hey, Todd, you're a Paralympian. I have this high schooler, and he totally gave me some connections, which was cool. So, but as far as the gap is concerned, there hasn't been a huge one. Most people want something, under $600 and entry level in our community and get out and get going.
Yeah. Cool. So Catherine Rebeck, Bike Kitchen in Windsor, Ontario.
Oh, I think I've heard of the Bike Kitchen actually.
Yeah.
Via social media.
And we've got someone here from Malaysia.
Nice.
Yeah. And Karina here says, my small town is extremely lucky to have a woman-owned outfitter with a strong bike corner and a woman-owned bike shop. Which bike shop? Let us know. Or which outdoor shop?
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
They're popping up all over the place, really. I mean, it's not unusual anymore, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let's see. So let's talk a little bit. You kind of alluded to it, but what was your background before the bike shop? It was in sports therapy, is that right?
Correct. Yeah. For almost 15 years, I was a sports massage therapist for D1 sports programs and Team USA. I worked with USA Swimming for, 9 years, international travel, world championships, things like that, world championship swimming. I did several medical rotations at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, and then wound up in Rio de Janeiro for the 2016 games for Team USA. They took 4 therapists, two women, 2 men, and I was one of those women that got to go and work on all the teams in the village. And it was a once in a lifetime experience. So that was a really fun opportunity. I got to meet cyclists at that professional level. I met and got to work on Mara Abbott and Kristen Armstrong when she won her time trial gold. And Mara's heartbreaking story of that 4th place finish on the road, those 3 European women. Mara's not a big lady. She's very petite. She's a climber. And man, she got those last 300 kilometers or something. They blazed past her. And it was just, the games are something else. I tell you, it was really cool to see a cyclist at that level, what their training looks like, what their mental preparation looks like, what their recovery process looks like. And both those women were very encouraging. 2016, I was working at the bike shop as a wrench, and they're like, there aren't very many female soigneurs. You could do that for a living. And then I met a soigneur, and he was like, I'm never home. I'm literally on the road for 10 months. And I'm like, see ya. So I bike shop instead.
Yeah. Well, it's awesome to have that experience. I mean, it sounds bonkers.
Yeah, it translated well into bike fitting. I've never been professionally trained as a bike fitter, but I've worked with the human body for so long and seen athletes train in different positions, whether they're on a bike or they're in the water or, they're a gymnast, what that does to the body and what the demand is on the body. Working with athletes like Ashton Lambie for 2 years, and seeing how he constantly needed a bike fit adjustment as he put on muscle mass, his flexibility changed. People think that you need one bike fit and that's it, and you're off and on the road, but your body changes, the stress levels change, your body tension changes. And so as you get to be a weaker or stronger rider, your posture changes and your fit is going to change. So It may not be the bike, it may be your body. And so I've used that to get people on bikes and get them on there comfortably. And so it's sort of one of our secret weapons is we have the $35 micro fit, and boy, golly, it's worth a lot more than $35.
Nice.
So it's really good to get people on what they're currently riding and make those adjustments and recommend maybe some soft tissue work if we see impingement areas or things like that.
Right. Awesome. Let's see. Here's an interesting question from Butch Pettit. As a woman-owned shop, do you get reverse attitude from male customers? They don't trust or listen to your professional advice.
That is a doozy. Oh, I like this one. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Let me show you this. I have this placard on my cash wrap, and I have so many male customers who come in and they're just like, oh, so does that mean you don't hire men to be in charge in here? And I'm like, no, that just means that there's a lady in here running the shop, and they always put their arm up on the counter and always like, howdy do. And you're like, hi, how are you, Buster? Like, yes, all the time. Oh my goodness. We've had the gentlemen who come in and they're like, yeah, is the owner here? Is the mechanic here? And you're like, I can help you with that, and or you walk to the back, you're like, sure, let me get him. And you come back and you're like, oh, hey, hi, I'm Beth. So yeah. Nice. We're good at, coming back at him. I've always worked in a male dominated industry. Sports therapy I was always the token female on trips. And so I'm used to bumping elbows with the guys, and I ride with guys and we go mountain biking. So, they can dish it, but I can take it.
Yeah. Nice. So Karina here says she wants a $35 micro fit. Honestly, like, as we have the YouTube channel and we try to refer people to people locally. But there's been a demand for online bike fits for people that, can't go to a fitter that they can trust. Like we did a fit video with her friend Annalisa from Endurance PDX who left recently, but I know she got a lot of business from that, and a lot of people were emailing me. It's like, does she do like a Zoom fit? Is that a thing? Yeah. So
Karina, get in touch. Reach out to us, Karina, on Instagram or Facebook. Send us a message, and we'll talk about maybe setting up your camera and taking a look at you on your bike.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a service that's, a lot of people are asking for, and I feel like could be implemented for little capital. If you've got Zoom and a decent camera, I know like logistically it's probably tricky on the customer end because of has to be at the right angle, and ideally like some kind of stationary bike setup.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, if the customer can get the stationary, the trainer set up and their bike set up on it, and they're comfortable, at a side angle view, and we can, that's doable. So if anyone's interested in having us put our eyes on you to make some adjustments, we're open to that.
Yeah. Cool. And the bike shop was Adventure's Edge, owned by Jen. So shout out to Adventure's Edge.
Hi, Adventure's Edge.
Cool. So we've got 120 people in the room. If you guys have a question for Beth, let us know in the comments. Paul says that sign is awesome. Yes, they have the one of the raddest logos. Speaking of which, what's the story behind your awesome logo?
I love telling this story so much. All of our branding, all of our like, cool story bro stickers and button work and branding work was done by a guy named Sean Gallagher. He's on Instagram called The Written Word with _ between each word there, The Written Word. Sean, I went to junior high with Sean Gallagher, and he used to put cartoon drawings in my locker. He had a crush on me, I think, and he used to put the drawings in my locker as a gift. And as I was opening the shop, I remembered that he was an artist, and I thought I'd seen maybe on Facebook that he was doing it for a living, was doing branding for a living. And so I emailed him. I was like, "Hey, remember those little drawings you used to do for me in junior high? Can you do some more for me now?" And he was like, "Oh my God." I was like, "I'll pay you," but he's been so supportive, and he's a cyclist himself, which was really cool. And so he's been stoked to collaborate with us on the art. He does amazing work. And so you guys should really, if you ever need branding or anything, Sean's the man.
Nice.
Yeah.
We have some ideas for merch for next year, and want to go all in on the teal and purple.
Should. Yeah, we just ordered Dynaplug racers in like hot pink and turquoise and blue. So we're excited. We got good feedback for those.
Nice. Sweet. Let's see. Any other questions here? So someone's asking about inventory issues of all the consumables that are the hardest to get a hold of. What is the hardest? Is it inner tubes?
It was tubes right off the bat. It was kids bikes, 20-inch, all the way up to 26. All of those Schrader valve tubes were hot. And we outsourced some things a couple times from another shop in Kansas City. And we've heard of frame builders who have had to buy group sets off Jensen, with Shimano backed up. So yeah, definitely those tubes, definitely those 6, 7, 8 speed chains. Those have been hot ticket item. Patch kits we started going through because we were just we patched tubes for a little while until we could get some more, and to get by until we could get them a new tube. But that was a wild time.
Yeah, it's crazy. That'd be a good idea for video. I know I've done a how to patch a tire video ages ago. Might be time to do a COVID focused one.
You should.
Yeah. So Killick Fabrication asks, if you were to build yourself the perfect bike, what would it be?
Oh no, that doesn't exist, does it? You always need a new bike.
That's true.
You always need to innovate and change things. Honestly, I kind of have the perfect bike right now. That it's my Pedalino Star Trek bike. It's got the gravel spacing. It's 142 in the back, and it's 100 space in the front, and it has the best geo. It's built for my size, but I can gear it. I can single speed it. I can 2-by it. I can 1-by it. I can I fit those Ultra Dynamico tires on, which is like 47.99, and so it really, I can run it flat. I can run it drop. I mean, I've done it. I've seen so many different iterations of builds, and it takes it every time. Like, It's the dual. I can't mountain bike on it. It's not suspension corrected, but
Right.
it sure is versatile. And I can put a skinny on it. I can put a chunky tire. It's really, that is the ideal bike for me. Is a chameleon. It does everything but mountain bike for the most part.
Nice. Where
So
is it up on the Pedalino site if people wanted to see photos of it, or is it on your gram?
probably it's either on her website or you can scroll through my Instagram and see it. California Travis at Paul Component took some photos of it because we had some of their parts on. I visited their shop out in Chico last summer, and so they've got pictures of it on their Instagram as well. Travis took some really good professional photos, but man, that work on that bike, that's probably one of my favorite Julie Pedalino bikes. Whew, it's good.
Nice. Cool. Well, I think one last question, and we'll wrap it up because we're heading up into an hour. I'm curious, all the new cyclists that are buying bikes after they've purchased the bike, like what is the next bit of information that you see them needing? Is it where to ride, or like what do they ask after the purchase?
They usually always ask where to ride.
Yeah.
Where to ride and how do they fix a flat if they get stuck? And what do they carry when they're out on their bike? What kind of tools should they be carrying? Tools, and how do they use those tools? So yes, we usually point them to our group rides to get them familiar with the area. That's a good one when we can have group rides. We also point them to People for Bikes because People for Bikes does they really log local routes into their website for people to refer to. They can download it into their apps. But yeah, where to ride, and then what do I carry and how do I fix it if it breaks? That's the biggest thing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, before we sign off, do you have any last words for the people still in the chat?
Oh my.
No pressure. There's only 126 people.
Only. Oh.
And one person from India. So,
I would really encourage people who maybe what we hear from some people in other cities is that they don't have a shop that in their community that they enjoy working with or bringing their bikes into because they're either not friendly or approachable. Really, you really have to take the bull by the horns in those circumstances. So you don't travel far to another shop to find one that you like. Help change the one that is currently there, whether it's just being persistent and asking for help, like, hey, I'm interested in learning how to fix my bike, and pester them until they crack. Or maybe develop a program in your community where they can contribute positively, whether it's a community bike wash or volunteer to lead a ride and start it at the shop. But start fostering community with your local bike shop if they're sort of a non-approachable business. Be creative and find ways to, maybe there's a reason they're not approachable. Maybe they're burned out and they need some new inspiration, and maybe you're that person that gives it to them. So but be persistent. And then if you are nervous about going into a bike shop because it's not owned by a woman, be that woman in the shop. I don't know.
Right.
Make some space for yourself.
Nice. Cool. On that note, I'm going to, Karina, for you too, hit that like button if you've enjoyed this chat with Beth from Frontier Bikes. Thank you, Beth, so much for being a guest on the live stream. I know this was super short notice, but super fun conversation. And thank you all. There's still about 130 people in the chat. If you've enjoyed this, don't forget to give the video, the live stream, a big thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, we're super close to 100,000. I think we're at almost 94,000 subscribers. So you guys can push us over the top. It's probably not going to happen by the new year, but at least we can inch towards that goal. So I think with that, thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Thank you once again, Beth.